Do you want to own a talking bird? Well, keep watching this video. I'm going to share with you how to choose the correct budgie that will increase your chances of owning a talking parakeet, as well as showing you how I teach my bird to talk. This video won't guarantee that your bird will talk, but these guidelines have been applied to my bird, and now he talks incredibly well. Step 1. Choosing the correct bird is very important if you want your bird to learn to talk. You will want to choose a male budgie because they're more verbal than females, and I strongly recommend you only get one bird because when you have two birds, they tend to just talk to each other, and so they really kind of ignore you as their owner. Though you still can have nice pets as a pair or three, they're not going to really want to learn to talk because you're not really part of their flock. The way to identify if you have a male bird is the little sear on its above its beak. If you have one that has a blue or like a light pink kind of colored sear, it's a male. When they're a little bit younger, it's hard to tell. But with females, they have more of a brown or a white sear. So that's how you can tell the difference between a male and a female. And I strongly recommend you get a male if you want a bird that can talk. As you can see, this here is a mature male with his very dark blue sear above his beak. And that's how you can tell. Now when they're younger, it will be a lot lighter. He definitely has, the color of his sear has definitely changed a lot. So when they're younger, it's a little bit harder to tell, but if you pay close attention, do a little bit of research, maybe look up on Google different photos of young parakeets, you can tell a little bit better. If you want a better chance to own a talking bird, then investing a little extra money into a hand-raised budgie is probably a good idea. It really can be worth it. My bird was hand-raised, and as was Pixel and Disco the Parakeet, if you've ever seen their channels and how much they talk. Buying a hand-raised budgie does not mean it's guaranteed to talk, but it definitely gives you a better chance because they're more accustomed to humans. Step 2. Get your bird used to the environment of your home. For your bird to want to talk, they will have to feel safe and happy, and comfortable with where they live. Now, it is important when you want to get your bird used to your home and be content and happy with its cage and with the environment around it. Toys are very important because if you're not there all the time, they will get quite bored. So just choose a variety of toys that they love. My bird loves this toy the most. The reason I don't have toys in his cage right now is because it doesn't look as good on camera. So I recommend keeping plenty of toys in his cage so that your bird will be entertained when you're not here. And he'll even just talk to his toys sometimes when he's bored. He'll just sit here. Look at that. Yeah, you like that toy. But definitely keep some toys in your bird's cage because budgies are they need to stimulate their brain quite a lot, and they're very playful. So for the first few weeks, debatable, but you might want to give your bird a little extra space just to get you settled in. But don't distance yourself so much to where your bird does not associate the new home with you. But don't push it too hard to where they get mad at you and start biting you, or they're super scared. If you have a scared bird, I recommend introducing yourself with food in your hand and getting your bird used to eating from your hand, and that'll make your bird more tame and want to spend more time with you in general. Just have, a little bit of seed in your hand to get him out of the cage. Either you can use treat millet, or if you're hand feeding him, keep in mind that treat millet is not the only food they need to eat. They need a variety of seeds and pellets or whatever. Come here. Come out. Look at that. You hungry? There you go. When we first started hand feeding him, I learned to be very strategic in getting him onto my hand. Because he would just he would sit on his perch and lean forward, and quite incredibly stretch all the way down to my hand to try to eat the food instead of sitting on my hand, because he was trying to avoid me. And if you're strategic about it, you can get him. If you lower your hand a little bit extra, he will jump down. or if you have to, a little bit higher, and they will hop down or try to step up onto your hand to get the food. But I had to work really hard to get him onto my hand so that he would be tame. Do not be surprised if your bird does not want to spend time with you and just flies back to his cage. Our bird did a lot before we started hand feeding him. He just would spend plenty of time in his cage. But with the more hand feeding we did, the more time we tried to invest in trying to get him tame, the more he's willing to come out and stay with us. But at first we would get him out and he would just fly back to his cage. Don't be too surprised if when you get your bird at first, he's a little quiet and anxious. My bird didn't talk that much or squawk or do much of anything for the first 2 weeks. So don't be too surprised if your bird doesn't really want to associate with the new environment that much. And it seems scared in general. They're just getting used to the new home. It's very important that you make sure you are also part of that environment, as I said before. You don't want your bird to just think of you as the scary human who lives in the other room. Try to be around your bird as much as possible, at least, and then be in the same room, just be there so that they recognize you as the new environment and not as a threat, because you want your bird to feel safe. Every bird's a little different. Some birds may need an extra amount of time with you to get used to you and feel comfortable. So it really depends on the bird, but definitely spend time near your bird and start trying to introduce your bird over the after a few days of your bird being in your home. Another reason why buying a hand-raised budgie is a really good idea is because they're just naturally more comfortable with humans, and they're probably more willing to adapt to the new environment and become friends and bond with you. Step 3, once your bird no longer sees you as a threat, the next step is associating yourself with pleasure to your bird. And this would include treats and seed and whatever the bird would be attracted to, lettuce. My bird loves lettuce. So become that. Usually it includes food. Become associated with what makes your bird happy, and they actually get a benefit out of the relationship with yourself and your bird. If your bird is like my bird, he wasn't scared of us per se, but definitely got mad at us because we were definitely pushing it with having him on our hands, and he just didn't like that at all. So we end up hand feeding my bird only, took away his food, and strictly hand fed him every day. And then within 2 weeks, he became very well adapted and loved us. And it got to the point where he just wanted to be in our face all the time. So that's probably about when the time he started wanting to learn to talk was about that, when he felt like he was part of our flock. So hand feeding them is probably a really good idea if your bird doesn't like you and wants to stay away from you. You can start introducing it by attempting to hand feed your bird with them still having food in their cage. But if that doesn't work, well, you can do what we did, and we took away his food, and every day we spent lots of time. Every couple of hours we would offer him food from our hands, or even every hour sometimes. It was just to make sure he didn't starve, obviously. Step 4. Once your bird begins to like you and wants to be with you, it's time to get them to talk. You will want to choose a phrase that's a little higher pitched because it's easier for them to mimic that. And also a short and simple phrase like baby bird or pretty bird, the typical things. Once you have your phrase picked out, you want to be ready to repeat that phrase a lot, like tons and tons of times a day. Every time you see your bird, I recommend just going up to your bird's cage or even having him out on your hand and just talk to him all the time. You want to get your bird willing to learn to talk. And it does help if you have you need a tame bird, I think. I find that it really increases your chances if your bird's tamed. Alright, I'm going to show you how I get my bird out of his cage using just a little piece of spray millet, and he's already interested. Look at that. Here he comes. Ah, yes. I usually, let him finish the food before I start talking to him. That way he's more concentrated. Yeah, I know you like that. Okay. Just kind of get rid of that. And then I will just have him right here. I think it's best to have him as close to your face as possible. Now, if your bird likes to bite, obviously be a little careful not to let him bite your lip because it hurts. But if you just have him right up here, and if he's listening, you can tell if he's listening. He'll definitely be a little more attentive. You can see he pays attention instead of just looking at other things. But I just get up right here and go, "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground."
It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground.
I try to be a little more enthusiastic so he's more willing to learn to talk and pick it up because it sounds more fun. "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. You underestimate my power.
You underestimate her.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
This is the way."
This is the way. This is the way.
And then I just repeat the same phrases over and over, especially with new phrases. But I definitely even still got millet on my hands. Even after he knows a phrase, I will continue to say it every day, just so his little bird brain keeps refreshed on his phrases. And they love to he'll just sit here and just listen to me talk. If your bird likes you, and he feels as if he's part of your flock, if you've spent enough time with him, he'll just listen to you and then start repeating it, hopefully. Because that's how they work in the wild. They all have the flock will have a call that they all use, and they'll share it with each other. So he'll start saying it back to you after he learns how to say it, and that's what I do. Just spend lots of time with your bird and just keep at it. Don't give up. It takes lots of time, but they can become just like my bird, Inigo Montoya, and say incredible amount of things in just a few months. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope it was informative and helpful for choosing the correct bird that will hopefully learn to talk. Just keep in mind, if your bird does not learn to talk, it's still a valuable member of the family and an awesome little pet. It's just that learning to talk is definitely frosting on the cake. But it's really about how much time you spend with your bird. The more time you spend, the more likely they are to learn to talk. Definitely want to invest plenty of time with your bird. And hopefully, your bird learns how to talk. And the more time you talk to your bird, the more your bird will talk. So, thank you for watching, and remember, subscribe to the bird.